All right. Well, thank you very much, Alia, for being with me tonight. I really appreciate you coming on the channel. Um, we're just going to jump right in, and I'm
Sure,
going to let you share your story, talk about how you came to Carnivore, and
sure.
anything you'd like to share, and then we'll just go from there.
Great. So let's see. Throughout my life, now looking back from when I was a child and a teen and in my 20s and early 30s, women have a very strange image of their bodies. Like, even if they're not overweight or maybe a little bit chubby, it's like a disaster. So, throughout my life, well, as a kid, my dad would say, like, I would be like fat and then skinny. Like, I would be fat and then I would stretch and I would be skinny. And this happens from the age of 2, I was apparently 50 pounds. When I was 10, I was 100 pounds. And then, like, but very short. So I was like round, but I would stretch out. So I remember being like 12 or 13 and like doing your growth spurt. And then, just either being thin or appropriate size or chubby, but not fat, overweight again um, until I got pregnant when I was 33 years old. But throughout my life, my friends would be like, hey, let's go on a diet. Have you heard of this thing called Atkins? I remember that when I was like 20. So maybe I was like 150 pounds or something when I was 20 or 18, 20. It looked okay. It looked okay. It didn't look terrible, or maybe a little bit less. And then my friends, like 30 days, we're doing the Atkins diet. Okay, great. We both lost so much weight. Atkins we were almost doing carnivore. That's how we were doing our Atkins diet, was like carnivore. 30 days are up. We look super sexy for 18 years old, 19 years old. Wow, look at all this weight we lost. I remember looking at myself in the mirror. Wow, look at how skinny I am. And then, you're done with the 30 days. You fall off the wagon. Or you don't fall off the wagon. You were never on the wagon. You were on a challenge with your best friend for a couple days. You know what I mean? To lose some quick weight, to lose some quick weight. And then you just go back to how you were eating before.
Just a normal kind of way, right?
Yeah, just the normal way. It wasn't. I think I did eat healthier than most. I wasn't always fast food, but I did eat healthier than most. The thing with me is that starting at 18, I started smoking. So smoking for like 17 years was always more important to me than food. So, by the way, so I'm eating less calories because I'll eat in like 5 or 10 minutes during my smoke break. Look, I even said smoke break during my meal breaks at work, and then I would go smoke for the rest of the time. So that does a whole other terrible thing to your body. By the way, it's not like a good way to lose weight or keep the weight off.
No.
So I don't think I ate terribly until I got pregnant. Maybe a little bit before then. So moving forward, um, it seemed like my resting point for my body, I would always like creep up to like 150-ish. And then I'd be like, oh, I need to lose some weight now. And then I would maybe eat less carbohydrates, because I always remembered that Atkins, like when I did a protein diet, I would lose weight. So I kept that in mind. Moving forward, 27. A friend of mine's like, have you heard of this HCG diet? We're going to lose a ton of weight. So it's like this hormone that's a hormone that's released in your body when you're pregnant. Like when you're first pregnant, it's elevated, and that's what they read on the pregnancy test. So for some reason, we bought a bottle of this hormone. And there was like a protocol to eat like, I think 1,200 or less calories a day of like dried chicken, strawberry, and that's it. Nothing fat, no fats. Very low calorie, very low, what is it called? Not calories, not carbohydrates. Well, definitely no, very little fat, zero fat, basically, like one of those sorts of diets. So I lost in 21 days, because you can't do it more than 21 days, like 21 pounds. It was like a pound a day. Again, I was like, wow, look how skinny I am. But this was not Atkins. This was some terrible thing to do to your body.
So super calorie restricted, no
Yeah,
fat,
while you're taking this hormone, you're taking these drops.
only lean protein.
Yeah, and I think an apple or like 2 strawberries.
Okay.
It's really crazy. I talked to another girl and she
As
did the
bad as
same thing.
smoking, almost.
I think it's worse than smoking. I think it's worse than smoking. I'll tell you why. So I did this diet, and you're supposed to, like, the maintenance period is just, they explained it to me, but it was stupid. But basically, this was the first time I ever got extremely fat in my mind. I got up to like 175. Now, the funny thing is I'm now 178, which is low. But I remember crying about my weight. After I did this crazy diet, I put on the weight and more than I'd ever put on. So I think it screwed up my hormones. And this is when I started eating bad. Me and a boyfriend at the time, we were eating a lot. We were living in Texas. We were eating out a lot, making less food at home. And it was just so easy for the weight to come on. Like, what do they have in Texas? They have Whataburger, but I hated Whataburger. Lots of In-N-Out Burger, lots of fast food. So the point, I'm just trying to explain my whole history so people understand I wasn't always fat. I was a chubby kid that loved hot dogs and French fries. I did okay as a teen and in my 20s. I did smoke a lot. I did drink a lot of coffee. I still drink coffee. But the bad, like, around my 20s, my weight became like an issue for me. And me and my girlfriends are always talking about our weight. And it didn't seem like it was so much before then. And in the 20s, it really set in. So, like, I don't know if we call it yo-yo dieting or because it wasn't always trying to do a diet. I just remember that if I ate less carbs, I would be skinny. But this HCG diet when I was like 25 or 26 really threw everything off. And that got me very big. So fast forward maybe like a year and a half, a friend of mine's like, here, I want you to try this. And she gave me like a protocol from some doctor in Italy or some doctor from somewhere. And basically it was the keto diet with vitamin, like an extreme amount of vitamin D, taking vitamin D daily, like an extreme amount of it, like 50,000 units or something ridiculous, some ridiculous amount of vitamin D and very low carbohydrates. So on that, I ate very low vegetables. Again, I started eating more meat but I always like meat without the extra stuff. I think I had like a piece of toast for breakfast with my eggs. And I think that was mainly the main carbohydrates for the day. And then I would eat like a healthy coconut ice cream without sugar at lunch. I was still in my 20s and I guess I hadn't yet ruined my metabolism fully. So I did this keto-esque diet, but it did really good with this vitamin D. And in like 3 months, I lost like 30 pounds. And I was again 120 pounds, between 120 and 135 pounds. And I looked again extremely skinny. So finished that, felt great, started eating the potato chip sort of stuff again. Went back up to my set point of 150. And then stayed around there until I met my husband and got pregnant. So,
but
yeah,
the
sorry.
whole time,
Yeah,
all of that kind of stuff, which even if for people that are predominantly overweight most of their life,
yeah.
all of those things, calorie restriction, especially doing hormones with
Oh
calorie
man,
restriction, it
right,
really does. It takes a while to unwind that.
right,
What you do to your metabolism during that
right.
time.
It's so crazy. I mean, the healthiest diet I ever did was then Atkins, but it was like, let's just do it just to do now we call it a challenge,
Right.
My friend, I remember she said, if you drink anything sweet in it, or any sugar, or you eat a carbohydrate that's not one piece of lettuce, we were allowed to eat all the meat we wanted. That wasn't the problem. We had to pay the other person $20. So that was part of the challenge. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I remember one morning, I don't know what I ate the day before. It was like a coffee and like a cheese stick. And that was my dinner. And the next morning I'm smoking and I'm waiting for something. I literally fainted and someone put a coffee in front of my face and is like, here, drink this. I'm like, does it have sugar? They're like, it was like a Starbucks. So of course it had sugar in it. I'm like, don't tell my friend. I didn't want to lose the $20. But I had fainted. So obviously I wasn't even doing Atkins correctly.
Yeah, it would have been an expensive coffee.
Yeah. An expensive sip of coffee. So yeah, no, these stupid things you do. And it's just so funny that I understood though, that if I ate properly, I would lose weight and be a proper weight. All right, let's go to being pregnant. So met my husband. I'm pregnant December 2015. That's the day I quit smoking. I saw my pregnancy test. And I always say it this way. I don't remember if I had my last cigarette after that pregnancy test, or if I gave my pack of cigarettes away, or if I threw them away. One of those three things happened, but that was the last after the pregnancy test. Because I had wanted to quit smoking for a while, but the urge was too strong. And I finally had like a reason, like a more powerful, potent reason. I wanted my baby to be healthy, and I didn't want to destroy it because of my own addiction.
Right.
So it's the baby, you know. So I quit smoking. So smokers, they get used to like just this movement.
Yes.
And you replace this movement, or it's this movement, and you replace it with this movement. So I believe I gained 70 pounds in that pregnancy.
Plus nicotine does suppress the appetite and
Right.
increase your metabolism. And
Oh,
so
okay.
it's not uncommon at all. When people
Right.
quit smoking, they gain weight.
Yes. So I gained weight and I was pregnant at
All
the same
combined.
time, all combined at the same time. And pregnancy, from what I've studied and Googled, it slows down your metabolism because your body needs more time to do what it needs to do with those resources that you eat, so it can build the baby, build up the
and
baby.
increases your appetite.
Yeah.
So you had the perfect storm to gain 70 pounds, right?
Yes. And cheeseburgers and French fries were definitely on the menu majority of that pregnancy. Because I kept thinking, I kept justifying it, you know, oh, it'll just come off, you know, blah, blah, blah. So let's move forward. The pregnancy for me was pretty simple. It was pretty straightforward. It was okay. But I never went into labor. And so this is going to tie into something else I'm going to tell you a little bit later. I never went into labor. We had to do all these procedures over a 3-day period to get me to go into labor. I never did. Pitocin, various other things I don't need to explain here, but they were terrible. And I hope no woman has to ever experience those things. And I ended up with an emergency C-section. Baby was fine. Jacob, he's now 7. But I got an infection, cellulitis so I was hospitalized for 2 weeks, or between arriving with the baby and arriving pregnant and leaving it with the baby, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. So that was like a very traumatic experience for me. Couldn't sleep, mama nursing, having this terrible infection on antibiotics. After that, I went home and I was still sick. Now I've been on antibiotics. It just went on. It was like this whole terrible thing, not the pregnancy, actually post-pregnancy, like trying to be a new mom, you know? So that whole stressful thing happened. I'm a new mom. I'm not smoking anymore. There was like some stress happening in my life. I'm eating terribly, by the way. I'm eating terribly.
Still cheeseburgers and French fries?
Yeah, still cheeseburgers and French fries. And
Okay.
a friend of mine ordered a chef to cook for me for 4 days. And he said, what do you like to eat? And I said, I like to eat red meat. I like to eat hamburgers. I like to eat this. I like to eat that. He's like, okay, somebody else, not my friend who did that as like a present for me being born, convinced him, because he was also vegan, to only make vegan foods for me.
So
they were really good. They were delicious. And then I tried to make. It just keeps
on getting better.
Yeah, right. So it was only like 4 days of food. And, you know, I'm really happy my friends did that. It was so nice that they like had a chef at least come over and cook for me and have meals prepared, because it's really stressful being a new mom, you know. So, but that's just as an aside. And now I look back and I'm like, I'm so angry. I shouldn't be angry now. I wasn't angry then. I shouldn't be. Now I'm a little bit angry because I just wanted meat. I actually said I love hamburgers. Like, just make me some hamburgers. Let's back up for 1 second. Sorry. I know I'm bouncing all over the place.
It's all right.
You sometimes hear about infertility a lot. I'm going to say, if I want to get pregnant, it's like I sneeze and I can get pregnant. Like, that's how easy it is for me. Like I said, I love meat. Months leading up to that first pregnancy, as terrible as it sounds, I often ate cheeseburgers and French fries. And I blame the red meat, not the cheeseburgers and French fries, but the burger patties themselves for making me so fertile. Like, even if the other part of my diet was terrible, I was eating something that humans need to be eating. And I always craved meat. And then another side story, every time that time of the month would come around, I would always want carne asada tacos, or I would want cheeseburgers. And I've said several times in my life when I was starving, I could eat a whole cow right now. And it's just funny, like these signals that my body gave to me that I didn't like. Oh, Atkins diet. Oh, meat. My body's always craving meat. Why don't I just eat meat? You know? So, okay, fast forward, we'll go back to Jacob was born months later. I am getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm now, I think I got up to like 215, 220 pounds. I'm 5'4". So,
And so even after the pregnancy, you continued to gain weight. It
I
didn't
continued.
actually come back off. Okay.
No, it didn't come off. No, it got worse. It got progressively worse, and I was feeling not good, and my hormones were out of whack. And I read a book called The Power of Your Metabolism. I tried that. It didn't really work for me. I didn't do it correctly. Anytime I say something didn't work for me, I'm just going to say I didn't do it correctly. But funny thing is, in that book, it recommends, like, if you're like big hip like I am, to like progesterone cream might help reduce the hips. So I was doing that, and that didn't work at all. That just increased the sex drive, and I got pregnant again.
So you had gained about 70 pounds during your pregnancy. You continued to gain some afterwards, and then you got pregnant again.
Yes, and then I got pregnant again. So Jacob was a year and I was pregnant. He was a year old and I was pregnant with my second baby. And I wanted them close together anyways, but hindsight is always 2020. I wish I would have got my health sorted out a little bit. It might have made, because the second pregnancy was awful. It was terrible. First one was okay, but the second C-section was okay. You have to get a second C-section. If they're so close, they're not going to let you have a natural birth if you had a prior C-section. But no, the second pregnancy was terrible, and I lost weight in that pregnancy. I lost weight because I couldn't eat. I was having a very hard time eating.
Oh, because of morning sickness, it just prolonged. You just always had
or acid reflux, or always feeling bloated.
Right.
But the interesting thing is, after I was pregnant, I moved to Colombia with Jacob and my husband. We were in Chicago. That whole first pregnancy in that first year where I got up to like I think I was 225. That occurred in Chicago. And then we moved to Colombia right when I was pregnant with Brianna. And so morning sickness, but a complete change of how I was eating. Because in Colombia, the diet is very different than in the United States. So it's like lots of salads, lean meats, maybe lentils, beans and rice sort of stuff. And that's how they eat here regularly, soup. But I just remember being super hard for me to eat. It is an exaggeration if I just said I didn't eat for 9 months, but I was eating very little. So by the time Brianna was born, I think I got back down to 180. So what is that? 220. Let's be nice. Let's say it was 215. 215 to 180, like the opposite in a pregnancy.
Okay.
So I think I hung around
35 pounds
down. Yeah. So I hung around there, and then I was nursing her, and I stayed around there. And then at one point, I don't know, I started eating bad again, more carbohydrates, maybe not like in the US, but more. And then my weight crept back up. And during this whole time period, I'm very upset about my weight. I think that it had a lot to do with my hormones being out of whack. So at one point that I forgot to tell you is that during all of this and my weight continuously increasing, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So no wonder you look at food and you get fat. You don't even eat it. You just look at it.
And plus, just eating, your hormones get out of whack in large part. Once you gain so much weight, then what you're really craving is meat that you don't get now, right?
Yeah. Because now I'm starting to hear for the first time in my life that hamburgers aren't good for you and that you shouldn't eat so much red meat. And I'm hearing this from my in-laws, and I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was so bad. And here in Colombia, when I first got here, I had like an aversion to pork. It would make me feel sick. And now even if I eat too much pork, I will feel bad. And it's different in the US. I can eat pork and not feel bad. I can eat bacon and not, bacon's okay. But I just remember eating pork when I got here and I would feel very, very sick. So basically no pork, no beef, very little beef, because it's really, so much of it's so bad, is not good for you. And basically dried out chicken. And now I'm eating vegetables probably for the first time in my life. So then when I was at the end of my pregnancy with my second child, Brianna, I started hearing about keto from Dr. Berg, and I was consuming a lot of keto content. And I'm like, this is my solution. I had no idea about the vegetables. I'm going to eat this way, but I'm going to do it with chicken because meat's bad for you, and I can't do my bacon here. So what am I doing? I'm doing like a calorie restrictive version of keto, and that fails.
Yeah, with way too low of fat content.
Way too low fat content. I did use olive oil. I did eat avocados, or I would make these keto snacks. Bad idea, right?
Yeah.
So I always say I did keto wrong, and I'm basically doing it right now. Even in my Atkins period, I never ate. I ate very little vegetables in my life. I've eaten.
Yeah. You would have done keto the way that I started.
Oh,
when
okay.
I first did keto 4.5 years ago, which really is sort of the mainstream keto. Like,
right.
You could do keto and not eat meat. I mean, I don't know why in the world you'd want to, but you could, because you get all your you get your protein and fat from vegetables and avocado. I mean, that really emphasized a lot of that. A lot of the keto snacks kind of stuff, which is just tragic. If you're going to do keto, that's not the way to do keto. It's whole food, animal based, vegetables. So yeah, I lost weight doing keto and then totally came off the wagon because I did it the way I was told, or the way that, at the time I thought you were to do it, which is, so you did it the way that you thought you should do it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I just remember all these like thoughts are coming in my head as I'm like recounting and telling you my story. But I remember one time in a keto group, and I'm like, why does my stomach feel bad? Is it the vinegar? Is it the vegetables? Is it that, like, I don't understand. And this is how I'm doing my keto, blah, blah, blah. And someone's like, watch out for those vegetables. And I was like, what is this guy talking about? He's crazy. Or I didn't think he was crazy. I just thought, that's an odd comment. Watch out for the vegetables, something like this. So, yeah, so that's really funny. The time in my life that I was actually my fattest, which has been in like the last 6 years, up and down between 180 and like 215, 213. That's been where I've been in the last 6 years. That's the time period of my life that I ate the most vegetables and had the most digestive issues in my life. Because you have to remember that I ate hamburgers and French fries, and I don't remember having a lot of digestive issues with that, like I had eating vegetables. So that's really funny. And I don't really think I'm exaggerating either. It's not that I didn't eat those things concurrently every time I fell off my keto wagon, but I just remember, I was doing green juicing for a while, and I made this super healthy green juice, and it had like spinach, and I don't know what else it had in it. It was like an atomic bomb exploded in my stomach. And I'm like, well, maybe it's detoxing something. Maybe I need to keep doing this. I need to like go through the process. This is what you think for some reason, like you're going through a process to heal your body, but it didn't hurt before I drank it.
That's what they actually say.
Oh, okay. So somehow that's
literally they say the reason why you feel bad when you're eating all these vegetables is that you're detoxing. And when you start eating meat and you feel better, that's bad, because you've actually, now you're not detoxing any longer.
Right.
So that's now how that actually makes even the remote amount of sense, right? You have to live in the you've got to depart the logical realm of reality to believe that. But no, that's exactly what they say.
Yeah. And I did that for years. I departed reality for years to try to follow something that I thought I understood, even though I was doing it wrong. So I say I did keto on and off for 6 years, more off than on, but every time I was like, I need to deal with my weight. I got to handle this. I'm going to I'm going to do this again. I'm going to get on the wagon. I would have grids. I would be keeping my weight. I'd be doing all these things. And it was so hard. And it was just so much stress from being overweight. But I don't think it was from being overweight. I think it was because my hormones were out of whack. I was having trouble sleeping. I just had 2 babies back to back. I nursed my daughter for almost 3 years and 3 or 4 months. That's a long time. It's a beautiful thing that I did for my daughter for a very long period of time, because that's the healthiest food that she should be eating, but not necessarily for 3.5 years. It was just hard to stop once you start. In her case. But that takes a toll on your body, because your breast milk is getting the nutrients also, like to make the milk so your kid can get the milk, right, is from what I understand. So when that all ended and I stopped nursing, then the weight went back up again. Because it also, you're burning a lot. I know we don't really talk about calories in this space, but when you produce breast milk and you're nursing, it does burn calories. So I was doing some sort of exercise that I stopped doing. I was doing something that did something that I stopped doing, and then the weight. And it would be really funny. So during the same time period, I would have constant diarrhea, on and off diarrhea, at least once a month, maybe once every 2 months, maybe twice a month. And this was a huge problem. And I would be inflamed, like really bloated, farting all the time. And I thought these things were normal. I thought it was normal because I remember my dad always complaining about how his stomach hurt all the time. So I'm like, oh, I'm old. I now have my dad's ailment. I'm old. I'm older.
And how old were you right then during that time?
I'm like mid-30s.
Okay.
Like a couple years ago. But I remember my dad always complaining about his stomach. So my dad was also a heavy smoker, but he was also a carbaholic. And he would come home at night and he would eat dinner and then do whatever he wanted. And I just remember every night was like a tradition to eat like a big thing of crackers or like a big bag of pretzels. By the way, I don't ever remember my dad being very overweight. Most of the time he was normal size. It was just me, my mom, and my brothers. Him and my sister were fine. But my stomach hurts every night. His stomach hurts. Anyways, the point is I associated with, now I'm older. Now my stomach hurts. This is the new normal. I have chronic back pain. This is the new normal. That started in my 20s. Let's see.
It's all genetic.
It's all genetic. Yeah.
It's just genetic. It's just the way it's going to be.
It's going to be, you see, I love my family. And if they watch this, I hope they don't feel bad about it. But they're all overweight. All of them. And I love them to death. And that's not the point. But they're all overweight. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense that I'm just going along with it. I'm just going to but I knew in my mind it was because I was eating wrong. And because I was eating wrong, I'm the same shape as those people that I love dearly that are overweight.
Right. But we do think sometimes it's just our fate.
Yeah.
Like when I grew up, that's what I always thought. I had two sisters that were pretty thin when we were younger. Yeah. But I wasn't.
Yeah.
And we ate about the same kind of stuff, right? We lived in the same house. Yeah. I just always thought, oh, too bad. Mm-hmm. I just got bad genes. Right?
You think these weird things that are just not true. You think these crazy things that are just not true. So also being in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm diagnosed with hypothyroidism. I don't want to take the medicine because I think it's going to ruin my thyroid even more if I take the medicine. Maybe not ruin the thyroid, but ruin the function of the hormones, So I never took that. So when I was diagnosed with that, and I want to get around, we will eventually get to why I started Carnivore this year. I want everyone to know my whole life story. The doctor told me in May 2017, when I refused to pick up my medication, he called me and he said, your thyroid, and I think he was referring to the TSH, is dangerously high. I remember those words. I hope it's not like my mind messing with me, but I remember it was some communication like that made me think, okay, I will do this. I will take the medication. So I think my TSH was like 10, which is super high. Per this thing right here, it's supposed to be like less than 0 to like 4. That's like normal, the TSH. And that is the hormone. I think it has to do with the pituitary gland telling the thyroid to produce more hormones. So when it's very high, that means that it's not working. Your thyroid's not working because it keeps sending more of that hormone. Okay. So I didn't really care. I started taking it for a little while. I felt really bad and I didn't take it. So other than when I was pregnant, I took it a little bit because the doctors convinced me that I needed to take my thyroid medication so that I didn't destroy my daughter's thyroid. And I didn't know any better one way or the other. So I just took it for some period during my second pregnancy. But since then, I haven't taken any. All right. I just thought that would be something I would have forever, by the way. Moving forward, IBS for 6 years, continuously gaining weight, chronic back pain, screwed up hormones, kind of like emotionally a wreck for years, which was very weird for me because I was always like a happy, chipper sort of person. So to just be like upset so easily at times, or like crying at the drop of a hat. These are all things when your hormones are screwed up, just like everything seems like so much more of a problem. So I didn't start Carnivore to do that. I started hearing about Carnivore a while ago. At the end of last year, I finally clicked on a Dr. Berry video because YouTube kept shoving it in my face. And I was like, all right, who is this guy? I'm going to listen to him. And the fact that he had a Southern accent hooked me in like a second. So I binged a whole bunch of his videos. And then I watched him interview Kelly Hogan. And I was like, Caesar, look at this girl. She's so skinny. All she eats is meat. He's like, she can't be healthy. I'm like, but she's been doing it she's not dead. She's been doing this for 13 years.
Yeah. And it's about 15 or 16 now, right?
Yeah, probably.
That video is a few years old.
Yeah, exactly. So between that, and then I went down like the rabbit hole of carnivore videos. And then I ran into Kip. But I was already closed on doing carnivore in my mind. But I'm like, oh, I'm going to do ketovore. And that just led me to binge eating a lot of cheese. And then I fell off the wagon again. This was the end of last year. And then one day I was like, that's enough. Enough is enough. March 1st is my day. I don't know why I decided March 1st, but March 1st was my day. I know people's like, start today, do it now. You won't never start it. True, possibly true, but March 1st was my day. And 3 days later, I posted my first YouTube video. So I just decided, Kip, he can do YouTube. I can do YouTube. And he was actually my inspiration. I know this is not my YouTube interview. This is my carnivore interview. But yeah. So within, I think, 14 days or less, the irritable bowel was totally handled. And I'm eating more or less beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, maybe some other stuff. Maybe at that point I was still eating chicken. Yeah, just eating meat products, animal products. 6 years of IBS gone in a week. I was never diagnosed with it because if you picked up, I don't really listen to my doctors. And I don't really go to doctors, even though I pay for insurance. I pay for that in case a child falls out of a tree and we have to go to the emergency room or something.
Right.
So we have that there really for our kids. But no, that's crazy. So I said I had chronic back pain, like extreme shoulder pain. I would always want a massage. I still say it's 85% better, but that was like within 14 days. I was like, wow, my back doesn't hurt. That's weird. That's weird. No more diarrhea. I know people get diarrhea pants apparently when they start carnivore, but for me, it was the opposite. No, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Also, I used to remember getting sick frequently, not just diarrhea, but sick frequently, like colds often. And I think I've gotten a cold at the beginning of carnivore. My son was sick and I got very sick for like a month. It just didn't go away. So maybe maybe even 6 weeks. So I don't know if I had the thing, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. If I had keto flu for 6 weeks or it was just something that wouldn't go away. But since then, one time my son was sick and I got something. It started and it was gone in like 24 hours. And that's amazing. Usually these things just like to stick with me, nose, throat. I just noticed I must be improving my immune system by not constantly putting ice cream and sugar and these things that kill your immune system, like kill your body.
Yeah. So plus the stress that we're under is compounding.
Oh,
and so whenever you have high inflammation constantly in your body, you have all this stress, you have all of the issues that are going on, all of that compounds, which is dry, and you have no time to recover. Rest and recovery is not sufficient because of all of that. And so, yeah, the immune system just gets tanked.
Yeah. And before I really had trouble sleeping. Like my body, I felt like was in constant flight or fight mode. And like, we have a mom joke, we call it like spidey sense. And like, you hear your child, you get this as soon as they're born. You hear a child, you're awake. You're like at just below sleep. Does that make sense? Like maybe
yes, yeah.
like, or just below consciousness and always awake. And that went on sleep 7 years, went on for 7 years. And so I also remember like the first couple of weeks in Carnivore, I was like, I was dead. No snoring. I don't snore, but I was dead to the world. Like you couldn't wake me. World War III could be happening right outside and I would just sleep through it. My sleep is a little bit more normalized now, but gosh, I needed that sleep.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's something people don't appreciate either.
No,
which is the sleep. It's not just how long you're in bed, but it's the quality of sleep that you get. And without that, again, you never recover, right? The body never recovers. And it is just a downward spiral. Which totally makes you susceptible to all kinds of issues.
IBS, terrible hormones. No, it's crazy. It's super duper. It's super crazy. And it's crazy to me, all the changes that have happened. Like I really have to think like how bad it was before. But I really want to stress, I don't know how many times I've been sitting in this office or in another office with my husband crying about my weight. And he never had a problem with it. I could be skinny and sexy, or I could be like a beach ball, and he never had a problem with it. It's like in his mind, how I looked was never an issue, but how I felt was an issue. Complaining about my back, bloated all the time, in bed with like terrible stomach cramps or diarrhea. Our first vacation forever, I had like projectile diarrhea, like the whole vacation. And thanks, first vacation in years, and I'm just dealing with how not to. We're supposed to go on a boat. What am I going to do? So it's just crazy. Like I often want to remember that so I keep going forward. Does that make sense?
And also your cycle, and you had issues with that also?
Oh, I had issues with my cycle my whole life.
Like severe cramping.
extreme pain. I've not, again, doctors never diagnosed with, but I think I had endometriosis, which is when there's your uterus lining grows out of control, basically. And it's a problem of it's an autoimmune issue, or it could be genetic or autoimmune is what one doctor said. And I truly believe it's autoimmune. And I believe it's from French fries and hot dogs. Not the hot dogs, maybe not the hot dog, but maybe the French fries, the ketchup, the bun, like the food, I won't even blame the bologna. I'll blame the white bread. Like these foods that I ate.
Vegetable seed oils.
Yeah.
Grains, refined carbohydrates, maybe some plants. But that's also resolved, right?
Right. Oh yeah. Like I will say, so I have this weird thing now that a week before my menstrual cycle, I getting an hour or so of difficult cramps 1 week before my period. It's very strange because it doesn't seem to be correlated, but I think it has something to do with my cycle. But I used to, maybe not every single cycle, but because I can't remember every single cycle since I was 13, but I remember my first terrible one. And I was just I felt like I was going to die. It was so bad. I maybe not die. That's extreme, but I just remember being in such pain, and I was doing like an after school program at my church, doing some studying and stuff like that. And my friend's like, you got to go home. I didn't want to leave because I felt obligated in what I was doing. You know what I mean? But I was like white. I think I had like sweat beads rolling down, and just this cramping was so painful. I didn't know what to do. And
so bad enough that you couldn't function normal.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. No. Yeah, absolutely. Most of the time couldn't function normally. And then people just don't understand this pain. Only people that listen to me right now that have experienced this will understand. And everyone else, you're doing pretty good. You don't look like, you're not looking at me with like a blank stare. Like I have had other people look at me like, Like,
well, and
bored.
obviously I've never suffered from that ailment,
Yeah.
but I can relate in this issue. It's like when
Yeah.
I talk about that I had gout for 30 years.
Okay.
Unless you've experienced what it's like,
Yeah.
it's difficult for people to comprehend,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because of, if it's severe enough, it truly is debilitating to where
Right.
you cannot sleep, you cannot move that joint. It's difficult to describe, but you literally cannot move. No matter how you move it, the pain never stops.
Right.
It's just continuous for sometimes for weeks, right?
Oh wow, that's
Because of
terrible.
the way that it was. So I can absolutely relate how people do not comprehend
the pain.
Yes,
Yeah.
because unless they've experienced it, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, it's very hard to explain. I was watching a YouTube video of a girl who said she broke her shoulder and she also suffered from endometriosis, and the breaking her shoulder was less painful than her endometriosis.
Yeah.
So that's a way to. I've never broken my shoulder, so I can't. I have broken a bone in my hand. That was pretty painful, but no, it's a different sort of pain. I in my 20s, I had a dental operation and I was on Vicodin, and it coincided with my menstrual cycle a few days later. So I was on the Vicodin. Vicodin is a whole other story, but I didn't feel any pain. But you can't feel anything when you're on Vicodin. You don't feel your mind, your heart, your soul. You feel nothing. So luckily I was smart enough to not get addicted to Vicodin. It was like Vicodin and Tylenol 800 was the magic combination. So I didn't experience the pain of my monthly cycle. So yeah, 3 weeks into Carnivore, my cycle showed up. It showed up, first of all, early, and second of all, I think I had that thing of like a week before I was experiencing like random cramping. But when my cycle actually showed up, I was like, this is really weird. I feel nothing. I will say I need to always.
So almost immediately.
But I need to say one thing. How I experienced pain after I had kids and after my menstrual cycle finally came back, because it was gone for years, was very different than the pain I experienced before I had kids. It was two different ball games. I don't know. I talked to a nurse and she said sometimes the pain won't come back like as it was before. So I did still experience pain, but then to experience absolutely like nothing, no cramping. Like she's like, cramping. The same nurse is like, no, cramps are supposed to hurt. I'm like, I don't experience pain anymore. The other thing I would experience is like this, even recently, before Carnivore, it would be like a cramping or a painful pulling from your kneecaps up to your groin. And that's not a normal thing women should be experiencing either with their menstrual cycle. That's just really weird. So that pain, is way less. But that first cycle, I was like, what is going on here? And I did a video, like my mind was like blown. Like, don't eat seed oils, don't eat sugar. You don't have to experience pain anymore. Nobody watched that video. My most important video in my mind. Like, I want to talk about that. Thank you for letting me talk about that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't want to hear about it. But you're a man, you have a wife, you have daughters.
Four daughters.
Oh, okay. So this territory is not unfamiliar for you. Yeah, no, I thank you for reminding me though. Like, all these things have changed, but the crazy thing that's changed is, I want to just talk about this really quick, is my thyroid condition. So I did blood tests in May, at the beginning of May, or at the end of May. Yes. It was right here. I did blood tests at the end of May, and I still, at the end of May, per the comparative numbers, I had a thyroid condition. My TSH was 5 point something. And then it looks like the T4 and the T3, those are the two other high thyroid hormones they tested. They were both in normal ranges per this, but with the TSH high, you still have something off.
So wait, that was from May, is that correct?
That was from May. So,
but prior, it was
like
10.
years ago. It was 10. It was 10. That was years ago.
Okay, so in May though, it's down.
I think I said like 1,000, but I could be wrong. I can't find those test results. I tried to get them from the portal at the hospital in Chicago. I couldn't get them. But whatever
from 10, from 10 at some point in the past,
yeah,
to 5 point something, which is still high.
5.14, yeah.
Okay.
And that's in May. So that's the end of May. So then I did my blood work on Monday, and the TSH was, it says TSH third generation, whatever that means. It was 4.06. And that is.
So normal.
It was normal, yeah.
0.06 outside the reference range.
No, it says it is, let's see. The reference range is 4.94.
Oh, okay.
But it's supposed to be 0.35 through 4.94. So it was 4.06. So
okay, so right in the middle.
Yeah, right there. It's good. And I went to my neighbor. Okay, so he's a doctor, and I just showed him this because I didn't want to show him my cholesterol. So I just screenshotted this, and I said, "What do you think about these numbers?" Because I have a thyroid condition. What do you think about these numbers? He's like, looks normal to me. But he told me to get 2 other tests to check called T4 free and T3 free. And so I'll do that next time. But he said, based on this, it looks normal. So that's crazy because I'm going to stress. I hardly took medication. I didn't want to destroy my already unfunctioning thyroid gland by taking medications to suppress it with fake stuff. And this is just from eating basically a meat diet. Have I been perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I pride myself on not pretending to be perfect. But the amount of red meat I'm consuming is far more than what I ever have. And when I say I'm not perfect, I had like Greek yogurt yesterday with some stevia. Like, that's what I mean. I'm not perfect.
Right.
And that's like a once in a while thing. A couple weeks ago, I had some pickles that were sweetened. Ew, disgusting. Ugh. But
yeah. So the thing is, and this is what I think so many people don't realize, and that they really need to get. So many people come into carnivore or strict keto or ketovore for the same reasons. Often, at least, we come in to lose weight.
Right.
But we have forever, for decades, lived in this culture where every ailment you have is a prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So the number of things between me and you, if we combine, we're going to be over a dozen.
Right.
Right? Of things that we would have either been taking medication for or likely within a short period of time been prescribed additional medication.
Right.
And yet, all that we've done is stopped eating sugar, grains, carbohydrates, vegetable seed oil, and predominantly animal-based diet.
Right.
Right.
I would say like 95%.
With the occasional,
or 90, even 98%. Yeah, with the occasional.
With the occasional, when we go off plan, it's because I have stuffed jalapenos sometimes. Now I do dairy.
Okay.
But
I gotta stay away
rarely
from it.
do dairy.
I mean, recently it's been last weeks I do dairy. I need to get off of the dairy again. I gotta try that. I don't know.
Does it bother you, or does it just stall your weight loss, or does it?
So my weight loss, we'll talk about that for a second. It sometimes makes me feel constipated if I eat too much cheese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, or it feels heavy in my stomach, but I love it. I had a big cheesy omelet tonight. But that's still, health-wise, that's way better than the standard American diet.
Oh,
it's way better.
Full-fat dairy, if it doesn't affect you, and some people it does, right? Because people still, but if full-fat dairy doesn't bother you, then, have at it, right? As long as you're not stalled in weight loss and even Greek yogurt. I mean, your cheats, Greek yogurt and stevia, that's like, that's 1,000 times better than what most people are eating.
Oh yeah, and that had no effect on me. So I'll compare it to my cheat last week. I made some like meringue. It's like egg whites fluffed with some honey, and I felt high, like a sugar high instantly. It like lit up my brain, like, oh my God. And then moments, not joking, 3 bites in, I'm like, I feel terrible. I felt terrible for hours.
Yeah.
Hours. I felt terrible. And bad mistake. But I love it because now I know why I feel like poop when I feel like poop. Can I show a photo really quick?
Sure.
Let me show a photo.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is my fattest period of time. Oh, I can't put it up. You got to put it up. Just so people understand. Oh, you popped it up. There it is. So this is between, I think this is like 220. me at 220, and that's Jacob. And this is a couple months after I was diagnosed with the thyroid condition. You can take it off if you want, but I just wanted to show it. It's in Chicago. I just want to show it. Like, that's how big I was. So if someone is like that, there's hope for you. I want to say that. And
yes, absolutely.
So from that point, I'm like 50 pounds down, but from when maybe 40 something pounds down, from when I started in March, I am 30, 31 pounds down, depending on the day. And I'm happy with that. And I could stand to lose probably another 50 pounds if I want to get back into my shorts I had when I was 135 pounds. But the mental aspect, how I feel about the sorting out of the hormones, all of that is so much better for me than the pounds. And I think now that my thyroid is getting sorted out, the pounds will start to come off also faster. So yeah, I think
and that, it's one of the other differences that people don't realize. If you just talk about doing keto or carnivore or whatever, people still look at that as the same type of thing they've done a dozen times.
Right.
And they think, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm only going to do it to lose weight, and then I can go back to eating crap.
Right.
But the reality is that almost all people, even if they start to lose weight, eventually you begin to think about your health because you realize how much better you feel. So I lost lots of weight on past diets, just like you. Only I didn't take pregnancy hormones to lose mine. But you always are longing for the day when that's over. Unlike this, where you say, Russ at the Homesick Buckeye says this, if he didn't lose any more weight, he'd still eat this way. Because he feels good, right?
Right.
And so now you can get to a place to where even if you stall, the weight comes off much slower than maybe you'd like. It doesn't matter because you actually feel good all the time. Right. So you eat what you love, you feel good, and the weight does usually, come off in time. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm not like in a race like my 30-day challenges anymore. I'm not in a race. I'm here for the long haul. I want to see how much healthier I can get with this body because I have a goal to live to be 100, and it wasn't going to happen how I was doing it. So now I know it's going to happen.
Right. So why are you only going for 100?
Because I didn't realize you could live to be 120.
I actually, so I tell my daughters all the time, my goal is 120. So
okay, great.
So I in one of my videos I said you got to be able to do this for the next 5 or 6 decades. And she sent me a text and said, "You realize you'll be 120?" And I said, "Exactly. That's exactly right."
Yeah, there you go. I just, I was thinking 100 is a good age because everyone like lives to be like 70 or 80 or something. So
yeah.
So there you go. And it's going to be a good quality of life. You can have a good quality of life when you get the right sleep, your hormones are balanced, you're eating the right food that your body needs. Does everyone need to eat super strict like I do? I don't believe so. I think if you like vegetables and they don't do horrific things to your body, eat them. I'm not against vegetables, people eating vegetables, but I do think people need to eat meat and animal based. I think they need to have those products in their diet because I've seen it's bad when
absolutely. Yeah, my wife likes vegetables much more than I do. She'll still eat a salad sometimes. Yeah. But I'll tell you what's happened, which I've said this several times before. She's realized things that she never knew before, like tomatoes actually make her joints hurt.
Interesting.
So now she's very cautious about eating tomatoes. But other vegetables don't seem to bother her. But you never knew that in the past, and I would have never known what triggered my gout attacks because I ate crap all the time, and because you always do those things, you never know what it is until you actually feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
And just in case somebody's watching and doesn't know, I don't have a picture to put up, but which I'm glad you had did that. Alia. But yeah, so I was well north of 264. At one point. So, and I'm much older than you. So I'm 59.
Oh, wow.
But again, I am in the absolute best health I've been in for 3 decades, probably.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny that you said that. I just remembered something. Sorry. Cheese will give me problems with my menstrual cycle. I ate a bunch of cheese. I was craving it right before my menstrual cycle. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, cheese is one of the things I really shouldn't eat. I really shouldn't eat it. Yeah. Sorry, just wanted to mention that.
Teresa O says that cheese is her cheat. So
yeah,
she does it rarely. It gives her a little bit of phlegm.
So, oh yeah, also it does all these bad. It's one of those addictive things. It's so good.
It's good. I use heavy whipping cream in my coffee. You still drink coffee?
I do.
Right? Yeah. And so do I.
My teeth are like yellow from. I drink black coffee, so I'm constantly brushing my teeth.
I only do that during certain times. I will drink black. If I'm out, I will drink black. But at home, I use heavy whipping cream unless I'm purposely skipping dairy for some period of time. But
I understand. In Colombia, the coffee is really different, and you get used to drinking it without sweeteners, without anything. Like I've gotten rid of the creamers and the sweeteners. The sweeteners are the last thing to go, and I recently put some stevia in a coffee, and I'm like, this destroyed my coffee actually. So the coffee itself is good. All right. Well, I hope I entertained some people, and my message came through. Eat meat.
Eat meat.
Eat more butter. Eat more butter.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I eat a lot of fat. Just women, we need a lot of fat. And I also want to add, even though we've only got a few seconds here, that I forgot to mention that I take this iodine supplement, and the top is like broken. Iodine that helps also with your thyroid. And I was listening to Dr. Elizabeth Bright, who is basically carnivore, I think, and she helps women with their hormones. So high fat with iodine.
We also do iodine, and I'm glad you mentioned the fat.
Yeah,
because. And I do not count macros, and neither does my wife.
And I don't.
But I would guess that roughly I am 70-30 fat to a protein, because that's eggs, bacon, ribeye, brisket. That's all about 70-30. If you do it by calories, right?
Okay.
My wife, however, likes more fat. Okay. And she really does better when she includes extra.
Okay.
So and I think many women actually prefer they run a little better on a little more fat content. But again, you learn that as you go along.
Right. So. Yeah, exactly. I hope we've inspired some people here. I hope they want to look at this as a way to eat.
Anything else you want to add, Alia?
Well, I have a YouTube channel. Please come over and check it out.
That's very
good. It's
right
here at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, Alia will. So yes, absolutely go check out her channel. If you haven't seen it, subscribe over there. That would be great. Alia, I really appreciate you. I know that your schedule is incredibly packed. I really appreciate you making time and getting on with me this evening. And hopefully we have been together on a couple live streams, and I'm sure that we will be again. I always enjoy it. So thank you for being here.
Me too. Yeah. And thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, Alia.
Bye. Yeah, you're welcome. Good night.